Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to Midnite Snax. My name is
Hey,
Dan from Marine. It's been a little while since we did our last episode, but joining me tonight is the one and only.
Funky Mark, how y'all doing? Cold
Good.
in here.
Apparently, Leah isn't able to get into the chat room, so it's just me and Mark here tonight. We've already been talking for probably the last hour already about all sorts of stuff that Mark doesn't frankly feel comfortable talking about. But that's
Yeah,
okay because there's always more to talk about.
particularly, I don't know, when you're talking about YouTubers and dealing with like mental illnesses and stuff, seems a little too depraved to cover. I don't like going to people's like
Well,
private lives and shit.
well,
Um,
I don't know. There's a whole debate we had about that, and how if it's private life, if they're posting it for everybody. But I'll probably make some videos talking about that crap, like on my channel
yeah,
later, because I wrote up a bunch of scripts for it,
I don't know,
or
man. The argument just
talking
feels
points.
exploitive. But anyway, we can move on.
Before we get into this, we'll set that aside. But I want to give a shout out to 7RC3 Productions, who did the artwork that you're probably seeing on the screen right now. As if all goes according to plan, he drew the avatars for from. I'm in the middle, I know that, and Leon's on the right. Is it Mark on the left, I believe? But
Um,
yeah,
I'm the
this
one with
guy.
the pop collar. Well, it's not even a pop. It's just like a messy kind of presentation. Really enjoy that about the artist. He kind of captured a little personality quirk in me that like wasn't really in the photo.
Yeah,
Like it kind of scares me a little bit. It's like a little too good. Like it's like
it's
a
cool.
psychological
Yeah.
tell. It's cool.
You
Respect that
notice
dog.
we all have glasses of some form on, which I thought was kind of cool because I often, out of convenience, wear my sunglasses on my head, even though I know it's a douchey thing, but I wear sunglasses for the utility of them. I know I'm an idiot and I don't look cool, but I live in Florida and before that Arizona, so a lot of times you need some sunglasses and you don't always want them on your covering your eyes. But I thought it was a little cool detail that we all have glasses. And this guy, 7RC3 Productions, real nice fella. He did this for free out of the kindness of his heart, just to
Hell
help
yeah.
out some other people that are, trying to do something, trying to make it, or just trying to talk. But if you want to check him out on Twitter, that's 7RC3 Productions. I'm going to link the shit out of his social media websites, Tumblr, all that stuff down in the description. But show him some love if you got a minute. But like I said, it's
Definitely.
just me and the Mark Man tonight.
Hell yeah. Did you drop something?
Sorry, repeat that. My headphones just broke up.
Oh, okay. Yes. I heard a big old noise and I was like, oh shit, did you drop
I kicked
something,
I
my
kicked
dude?
the cable accidentally. Dumb.
Oh, okay. Anyway.
Yeah. But what do we want to talk about here? We what's not off topic? The sovereign citizen movement. This is a movement that's been going on for
Yeah.
years now, apparently. But what
Yeah.
sparked your interest
So,
in this? Why now? What is it?
oh man.
For people who don't know,
So
what
there's
is
there's
it?
a subreddit area. Okay, so Sovereign Citizens is a movement. I like to call it a movement of shitheads. It's basically a bunch of people who like hate the government and shit, and or like that's kind of a theme of it. But they basically their main thought point is that each of them are individually a sovereign entity or sort of like a sovereign nation, and that they have diplomatic immunity from the United States. Um, and there's a whole bunch of videos of them acting like complete dipshits and getting arrested. And their whole claim is that they're since they're sovereign, they're like the laws of the U.S. don't apply to them, so they can just keep going on. And it also is a theme. I found them on r slash my being detained because I love looking at videos of just people getting arrested, like complete dipshits getting arrested and like trying to skirt around the law, acting like they're real smart and shit. Um,
That's why I used to like watching Cops
and
back in college. We'd pass a couple bulls around and watch Cops all night. It was great. Talk about how we'd
that
handle.
sounds fucking
We talked
awesome.
about how we'd
Holy
handle the
shit!
situation differently. My buddy, he was a big stoner, and not myself as much, but we
Yeah.
would just get blazed and talk about, just laugh at like the absurdity of the situations and be like, "Man, this is how I would do it. I wouldn't give him
Like the cops or the people getting arrested?
the people getting arrested." Usually it'd be like it's
Yeah.
just funny to I don't know. And it did seem kind of, funny to smoke weed while watching it.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds fucking awesome, man.
Yeah.
I actually really envy that. That's really fucking
Yeah,
cool.
the guy in this apartment,
Um,
his roommate was a drug dealer, so it's even funnier. My
that's fucking
old
awesome.
college buddy.
Um, yeah. But it's funny because like I really relate to that because a lot of the videos are just them like just being so uncooperative to a point where like if I would like because I'm very critical of cops in a way, but like when I see these, I'd be like, okay, I wouldn't know how to deal with these people. I just probably the first thing it would be so hard for me just not to give in to temptations, just get out my nightstick, just beat the fuck out of them.
They almost seem like social justice warriors or something. Like there's
Not really. They're more criminal because like they are considered by the FBI to be
But do they
terrorists,
really
and
believe
they
it?
aren't really proponents
They
of.
seem like mentally disturbed. Like one guy I saw looked like he was had like a head full of dreadlocks. He was like cross-eyed, like his face is kind of messed up a little bit, and like he looked like he was like either like talking to Buddha beforehand or like smoking Buddha. And he was just like
Yeah, that was
talking like it sounded like it was intelligent but also a little bit retarded at the same time. Like all these kind of
yeah.
constitutional interpretations and how like the laws don't apply to him because if you read the Constitution at 3 in the morning after watching Pink Floyd's The Wall, it makes sense. But or the one guy was sitting in the car like this guy just pulled me over for speeding. Can you believe that? And he's filming him.
Yeah,
And the cop like cracks the window or something, and it's like, dude, you were
right,
speeding. The law applies whether you think it does or not. I think it's kind of like, it almost
right.
seems like entitled. Like, where is this interpretation coming from? Do you know what their logic is? I don't know how much research you did, but I assume you know more than
Oh,
me.
that's a really good question. I don't know. I don't know where the entitlement comes from. I really do think it's just a bunch of people who think they know the law, and like it's literally like to me, it just looks like someone had told them a bunch of bullshit in a bar. Like someone had discussed law and shit over smoking a bowl, like you were saying, and then they try to fucking apply that shit to actual like legal disputes, like when they actually get pulled over by the police or whatever. But it is kind of a sense of entitlement that comes from it because like there's like a video of a guy like um getting stopped by the cops and he doesn't have a driver's license. The guy never got a driver's license, didn't go to driver's school, and he just fucking like but because he like is a self-proclaimed sovereign citizen that the law doesn't apply to him. It's like, oh my god, you fucking narcissistic dipshit, you're gonna get someone killed. Like,
Yeah,
it's ridiculous,
I
man.
pulled up the
um
Wikipedia page here. This is some high quality info, so take it with a grain of salt. But it says in surveys conducted in 2014 and 2015, representatives of U.S. law enforcement ranked the risk of terrorism from the sovereign citizen movement higher than the risk of Islamic extremism. Sovereign citizens have also been identified as
yeah.
potential terrorist threat by the New South Wales Police Force in Australia. What's crazy is like this is a movement? Is this a united movement? Is there like a sovereign citizen headquarters, like Slab City, California, like
Oh,
Fallout New Vegas or something? Like, um,
yeah. I to me I think I don't really haven't studied the movement extensively, but I think it because it's been a growing movement and because it's influence on social media. Because you see a lot of this shit on YouTube, and then the way they upload it, they always upload it like they're the ones in the right. I feel like some of those people will see that, and you know the way politics are these days, people are just that you two people can see one thing, but they're completely different political ideologies. They'll interpret it differently. So when you see like those disputes with the cops, especially with people who are just really edgy, hate the government, hate cops or whatever, I think that's like what gives that movement some
yeah.
fire.
Wikipedia says it's a loose grouping of American and Canadian litigants, commentators, tax protesters, and financial scheme promoters. But it says loose
Oh
grouping.
god,
It's kind of like a loose, it's almost like a
yeah,
slang term.
yeah, like a confederacy of some sort because they aren't really making their own nation in a way. They're just a bunch of individually. inclined
Yeah.
people that probably don't really know each other in real life, probably through the internet or
This is
whatever.
what Wikipedia says. Self-described sovereign citizens take the position that they are answerable only to their particular interpretation of the common law and are not subject to any government statutes or proceedings. They do not recognize United States currency and maintain they are free of any legal constraints. They especially reject most forms of taxation as illegitimate. Participants in the movement argue this concept is in opposition to federal citizens who they say have unknowingly forfeited their rights by accepting some aspect of federal law. The doctrines of the movement are similar to those of the Free Men on the Land movement, more commonly found in Britain and Canada. So I guess that Free Men on the Land is like a whole nother. Um,
Yeah, it's kind of a similar group.
th-
I don't really know much
this
about
whole
them,
thing, it
but
reminds me of the teams you join in Fallout 4. You can like choose which group of people you want to go along with and like believe their whole conspiracy theory, and like they have all their own little like weird
they're
laws.
they aren't even as okay. Like that's the thing though. It's all individually. From what I see from it, it's like not even like it's like none of these people got together and made their own laws. It's just each guy is just like just happens to think, oh, I don't like this. I'm going to be a self-proclaimed sovereign nation or individual and be, I don't. This law just
So
doesn't apply to me. Like the guy was saying with the driver's license
it's
thing.
kind of like a
Um,
gangster, because gangsters do what they want, but these guys are just bums.
no, they're just yeah, they're just idiots. Like they're really dumb. It's really funny trying to watch them. Like I sent you a video of one guy who was in a court proceeding and he tried bullshitting his way out of this situation for driving without a license and shit. Um, and he was trying to say like, "Oh, I'm the agent, or I'm the agent of the individual,
Yeah,
David Hall.
I saw that.
Yeah, yeah, it was really funny because
And
like, um,
the
the judge takes it and
yeah.
then switches his logic on him, and starts like, okay, well, hang on, let me write this down. And he gets all over and like, and then he like pretty much just charges the agent, the individual, and the person or something like that.
Yeah,
It was like the funny shit watching.
it was hard to keep up with because he had the sovereign citizen guy had this really weird like I don't know if it's conceited, that's not the right word, but this really like weird way, a complicated way of referring to himself, saying I'm not a human being, I'm not a person. And then the judge totally went with it and is like, okay, so there's a manager of the estate of the person of the legislator and the like using all this like like terminology, and I was like, what are you guys talking about?
Yeah,
And they're like trying to like negotiate the terms of his like ticket or something, like DUI and driving without a license or
right.
some shit. Um,
Oh, I love that video. It cracks me up because he's like, wow, this guy's kind of bumbling through his bullshit logic, and the judge sees right through it, calls his bluff. You can see like the inmates behind him just fucking laughing at him, like telling him to shut the fuck
I
up,
mean, what is the
like just wasting everyone's time.
what's the difference between a sovereign citizen and an anarchist? Is an anarchist
They're almost one of the well, they like I guess the difference is that they believe in a law system,
just
um,
their own law
but
system?
only to themselves. Like yeah, their own law system.
That's like the same
Like
thing as anarchy because there is no law.
right. Yeah, it is essentially the same, but it's like a really bullshit veiled way of saying it. It's just like, okay, who's gonna force that? Like nobody
It's you
but
know what? Like part of me
you.
like wants to like almost like hear them out and like they're all crazy. Don't get me wrong, it's crazy, but it's like,
Right.
what? These are the kind of people that see aliens in the back of the cornfield at like 2 in the morning and go on the news and talk about it. And you know what? Maybe they're out there. Maybe they do exist. Maybe there's some kernel of wisdom deep within these sovereign citizens, and maybe they're more free than all of us. You know,
No.
you know, what, culture is an interesting thing. Like culture, we have all these expectations as a society as to behavior, how people are supposed to act, what's socially acceptable. We judge people based on
Yeah.
appearances, and these people generally do not fit that mold. And uh, culture itself is a whole interesting conversation, but um, I don't know. Maybe these people have some sort of archaic wisdom, like the
No.
early man, like I don't know, maybe in their own head they're happy and they don't. I mean, as long as they're not getting arrested, maybe they're just happy being sovereign citizens.
I really don't. I really doubt that. From what if it's a big enough problem for them to be labeled as terrorists, it becomes a finite point. To my opinion, because you can be like you can recognize that there are older philosophies, ways of thinking. Like, I met a guy who was like a self-proclaimed like environmental anarchist, right? And he like was real about like old Native American cultures and how they ran their shit and all this stuff. And he was kind of the good guy who was just like, hey, maybe the human race somehow, maybe one day evolves to the point where we don't need to govern ourselves and we can just have a utopia and just run off and do our own thing. Um, that's interesting in itself, but like that's kind of different from sovereign citizens. They just, I think it's just some bullshit attribution they make so they can be defensive of the shady shit they do. Um, or like, the criminal acts, like, when they get speeding. And I think a lot of it is born from like a sort of adversity towards cops and the law and the government um, than it is sort of like an archaic natural philosophy thing
You
in
know,
itself is just a more
it could
rebellious
all be related to, like,
tendency.
I mean, is it? I don't know how long this has been going on for. I'm sure there's people that have lived above or outside of the law for as long as the Western
Right.
films, spaghetti Western films. But these people, they seem to have like a problem with authority figures, and this is just, of course, spitballing, nothing for sure. But maybe it's related to some sort
Oh
of
yeah.
like parental figures, lack of parental figures, childhood trauma, mental issues. A lot of times it seems drugs involved. What I was going to say was what makes these people tick, and then I thought, it's probably meth. But I mean, what is the motivation behind it? Maybe there's some sort of grand master plan to the sovereign citizen movement. Maybe they're building UFOs or something out in Area 51.
I don't think they're like Scientologists or anything like that. Even then, they're kind of shady.
Yeah.
Um, I think to me, I'm gonna go with my point and Occam's razor. The simplest explanation is usually the most true, and that they're just a bunch of people who don't like the government, so they just made up their own little law system, and they can protest the government in their own way. I really don't think they're some natural sages or anything like
Oh
that trying
yeah.
to contact aliens or anything
Well, you know
like
what? I
that.
don't really think that either. But I just
Yeah.
think it's interesting to look beyond the appearances at things and try to see things from a different perspective. Maybe you can learn something from it. Not that you're going to become a sovereign citizen and join the fight, but this whole thing, it reminds me of, I don't know if I think I brought this up before. This place called Slab City, California. Have you heard of it? It's
Maybe.
like
Sounds familiar. Is that like a kind of trailer park ish area?
kind of.
Like out in the boonies and shit?
So
Was there a Vice documentary on this?
there might be a Vice documentary, but pretty much it's in California.
Yeah,
I think it's like a
I think I've seen it.
retired military base. It's in the Sonoran Desert.
Oh,
But it's a bunch of these concrete slabs, like in the middle of this desert, and it's like the last quote unquote free place to live in the United States. So you don't pay taxes, you don't pay rent or anything like that. The only thing you got to pay
oh,
for is
okay.
like if you got to have a place to live, probably like you got to have a trailer or a
Yeah,
tent or some sort of shelter. You got to obviously supply your own
right.
electricity with a generator or somehow, and you got to get your own water and all that. But besides that, it's like this kind of like I hate to keep using this reference, but it's like Fallout. It's like this like no man's land. A lot of apparently like artists move there. A lot of drugs and kind of like hippie people, I guess. It's very fascinating. Like I'd never want to live there because a lot of people say it's
Yeah.
dangerous, but it's there's definitely some documentaries on YouTube. There's this one guy that travels around in his RV doing like a vlog in different places, and he went there a while back, and I guess they like slashed his tires and like stole his solar panels or something like that. And
Oh my
all the people in his
God.
comments have been warning him like, "Don't go there, it's dangerous." But it's definitely
Yeah.
I don't know, just from an outside perspective, it's fascinating to me. I was thinking about making a documentary about it.
That'd be interesting. Um, didn't you think about doing a documentary on sovereign citizens
Oh yeah,
themselves?
dude, I have so many scripts written down for different video ideas that I just kind of like write them all down, and sometimes I go back and add to them, or I'll delete them, and
Yeah.
eventually I'll sometimes make one, but I don't know if I want to start doing that or not, because it is a much larger investment of
Right.
time to do a documentary. Um,
Yeah.
but I think it's something I'll probably be better at. Plus, the other thing is like the whole fair use issue. Like, because if I would be doing a documentary on it, I'd be getting info and using videos of people that have already made videos about it.
No, man, listen, you're a sovereign citizen and the laws of fair use don't apply to you, okay? Let's get this right. I'm kidding, but yeah, I think an interesting question is to ask like is well, I find it interesting how many people are just like people's disdain of the government um is gets so bad to the point where they just get these bullshit movements like this. Um,
You know what?
Sometimes there's legitimate counterculture movements, but this is just like a bullshit like subculture um, that just fascinates me so much. Because like there is things to be said about like cops and shit and how they operate. Um, but man, do I become more sympathetic of cops when I see them run into those guys? Like videos of it, I'm just like, oh my god. Those, I'd be reacting the same way, like busting their window and arresting them, fucking yelling at them and shit. I would lose my cool. I don't know how cops like do that.
Yeah, but if you think about it, I would argue that most people break the law a little bit, even if it's just like speeding 5 miles over,
Yeah.
fudging their
Mm.
taxes, pirating movies and music, watching stolen movies online. Everybody
Yeah.
has their little laws they break. It seems like
Yeah.
maybe not everybody, but the people that aren't breaking a little bit of the law, those are the people you can't trust.
In a way, yeah. I guess.
Taking an extra free sample
Um,
at the grocery store.
yeah. I don't know. That's an interesting thing. I guess people who aren't.
These are
I guess the whole statement. Everyone has their vice. Um,
these are more acceptable laws to break, like pirating music, or
right.
because nobody's watching. Everybody speeds, right?
Everyone speeds a little
Texting
bit.
and driving, that's a big one.
Yeah. Um. Oh, that's too prevalent. I try to do like I always get pissed. Like I don't really do it. Um, I was like went to go to my car right, and having to park outside my buddy's house. Um, and as I'm like walking through my car, I see my buddy like pull out on his car, and he's reading his he's texting while driving, and I sent a message in the group chat. I'm like, hey, friends don't let friends text while drive, and and Dave was just like, dude, you talking about me? I'm like, yeah, dude. Just like, how do you know that? I like fucking saw you.
Yeah, dude, it's so dangerous. I think there's a lot of things, places show that it's as dangerous or getting as dangerous as drinking and driving.
Yeah. Um, I mean, you are taking your eyes off the road. I don't know. I'm not gonna compare it too much.
But yeah, pretty much the sovereign citizens are just doing all these at the same time. They're on the Pirate Bay, they're speeding down the road or the sidewalk, they're not paying taxes at all, they're ripping music.
Yeah.
Maybe it'd be fun to be like a sovereign citizen for a week, Probably smell like piss by the end of it, but
It's like,
it'd be a learning experience, you know?
well, I don't know how you even. I mean, like, I really don't want to pay federal taxes for that fucking wall. I don't want to do
That
that.
would go
But
viral. Sovereign for a week.
sovereign for a week.
Yeah, you can
Well,
make it
the
a
thing is,
comedic
you
thing too.
like what makes the sovereign lifestyle? Because I don't really know the sovereign lifestyle. I'm like pretty much anyone's exposure to it is just them getting arrested, and I'm not looking to get
Dude,
arrested.
you
Like
ain't about
you
that
can like
life?
yeah no man. when a cop asks me for my license, I'll fucking give it to him. I don't like I'm not gonna play any bullshit games and be like, oh, I don't need to. It was really funny. I watched those videos. They also love to quote Supreme Court cases. Um, because I watched a couple of ones. They well, listen, Ohio versus Terry. They say you're not allowed to search me. I'm like, oh no, that's the exact opposite of what happened with Ohio versus Terry. They the Supreme Court case, that legalized the Terry frisk, and that would pretty much allows cops with a reasonable suspicion of like an immediate danger, they can search a person. And they're like, now there's a difference between that and like that only applies to people like walking out in public and shit.
Yeah.
Like in the city and shit, but they like quote that to the exact opposite of what actually was the ruling. So it cracks me up watching this. I fucking have to roll my eyes like this fucking dipshit. God damn
Yeah,
it!
walking
Like,
Wikipedia.
yeah, I love when they try to quote like there's a one video of like the guy from Texas, and he's like, "Well, listen, man, it's in the code and the Texas code, the 1.5 and like he's like trying to go on it, just like, dude, stop, just give me your license. The whole situation could have been avoided if you just gave me your fucking license and just moved on, got the ticket, but now you're just getting fucking arrested like a dipshit."
Yeah. Well, you know what? You should actually come to the video page this time and post some of the videos in the comments, and I'll try to post a few in the description so people who aren't familiar can
Oh yeah,
actually look up the sovereign citizens. I'm no expert on this. I only watched a couple YouTube videos, but we thought
yeah,
it would
same
be fun
here.
to talk about and just have a discussion on it. And if anybody else has some
Yeah.
more deep thoughts or just some passing, fleeting thoughts about it, we'd like to hear it down below. You know where to write it. Comments section.
Or you wanna call me a fuckface asshole? You can do that
Yeah,
too.
that's always
You
available.
know,
That's never off the table. That goes for everybody on the
yeah.
podcast. But you know what?
Um,
Self-deprecating humor, it's getting so stale now. Everybody, you know what? It's just so tiring. I found out that everybody uses it as like this defense mechanism, and it's such a sovereign citizen thing to do. So let's not go down that
no, it's
rabbit hole.
not.
But
What,
yeah,
self-deprecation?
that could be a good topic for a
Well,
podcast.
no, it's a that's actually like a defense. Like humor's always been a good defense
Yeah.
mechanism for people like um when in danger or just like taking things in stride.
The reason I wrote a script about self-deprecation, I actually recorded a video about it that I never uploaded, or maybe if I did upload it, I deleted it. But it was just
Yeah,
commenting on how all these commentary channels use self-deprecation and like awareness of what criticisms people have against them as a shield, like Tyrion Lannister in Game of Thrones saying like all dwarves are bastards in their father's eyes. Jon Snow, as long as you know what you are, nobody can use it against you, which is true. But I don't know. I think
yeah.
in general with these commentary channels, it can become it's not always that funny.
Oh, are you saying they kind of use it as an excuse of their shitty
Yeah,
content?
somewhat. Or but they try to like be self-aware of like their commenters and people that don't like them, and try to use it in like a humorous way. But
Uh,
usually it's not that humorous to me, and sometimes it feels like a cop out for like legitimate criticism. But
what about iDubbbz?
uh, I think he makes pretty good content. But I don't know. I don't think he's immune to criticism either.
Well, right. No, I won't. The reason I say that is that he does a really interesting thing. He like, yeah, or like I remember he did the leafy response bit. He's like, "Hey guys, receding hairline here," and like he had his hair back,
Yeah.
and then he fucking just
Well,
shaves like
that's
his
actually
fucking widow's peak.
that's creative. Actually, that's entertaining. Like there's
Yeah,
actually some substance there from a comedic and entertainment standpoint. I think, if
right.
anything, he should be commended for like constantly trying out new things and still retaining an audience while he's taking these things.
Yeah.
But his videos aren't perfect. He's you know. Anyways, that's a topic for another discussion. We're sovereign citizens here. We don't have time for that tonight. But let's wrap it up because this is almost 30 minutes. And you can find me on
Hell yeah.
Twitter at Mandoreen. Do you want to give your Twitter out, Mark?
Yeah. I guess y'all can follow me at Funky Mark. I don't really tweet many entertaining things.
Yeah.
maybe about like eating out of the trash, but
My tweet,
yeah, you can follow that if you want. You may hit me up.
full disclosure,
Good times.
I am awful at Twitter. But one last thing, I just signed up for the Amazon affiliates program, which there's a link in the description. If you click on that and then you go buy something from Amazon, it helps support this show. So far, nobody's clicked it yet, but
Shit.
probably nobody will either. But if you do, we appreciate you. Yeah. So, any last thoughts?
Um,
No, that's a no. Well,
eat your meat.
okay. Eat your meat. Eat your meat. And thanks for listening to Midnight Snax. Hopefully, we'll have Leon back next time when we get these technical issues worked out.
All right.